Good morning. It is Monday, August 24th. I hope you are doing well. Theater is a complex art form that has lasted for 2,500 years. Its origins date back to ancient Greece, and at that time, theater started before dawn. Upwards of 17,000 people gathered in a large outdoor theater to watch plays. And these plays were performed as a part of a celebration in honor of the god Dionysus. After the performance of a play, the audience celebrated. In the Middle Ages, theater changed. Plays were mounted on the backs of wagons, and these wagons were pulled through town where people were gathered, and plays were performed. And then they moved on to another part of the town and performed again. Whatever form theater has been in throughout history, we have to ask the questions, why do people make theater? And why do we support theater? What about theater appeals to us? And finally, what makes us recognize the superiority of one play as opposed to the other? What makes theater good in our eyes? In ancient Greece, theater was performed during festivals, and these festivals were held in honor of the god Dionysus. They went on for a week, and throughout the day, plays were performed. That is where we will start our exploration of theater in ancient Greece during the 5th century BC. Now, this is theater in the form that we are familiar with, where people gather and sit in front of a stage and watch a play being performed. Theater, as we know it, begins there. But performance is something that has been with us much longer. The Egyptians also celebrated a god. This god was Osiris, but there was no real formalized theater where that was performed. It was outdoors, certainly, but the structure that we are familiar with now just did not exist at that time. So theater has been with us for a very, very long time. And throughout that period, we will see just how theater has changed. In ancient Greece, theater was respectable, honorable. It was a demonstration of civic pride. The Greeks were very proud of theater and playwrights and performances, and the fact that the audience attended these performances and absolutely loved them. As we said, they were presented in honor of a god, and these presentations were thought to appease the god, make the god happy. As we move on in time, theater became a tool to educate audiences. After the birth of Christ, the focus on pagan theater, or theater that was performed in honor of a god, fell out of favor, as you can imagine. And at that time, theater became a tool to educate about Christianity. And that practice was continued. By the 17th century, the beginning of the Renaissance, theater was to become a profession. And it moved away from religion. Always, though, it was a part of the structure of these stories. but the focus was on entertaining an audience, celebrating playwrights, uh, creating theater. Theater has existed, as you can see, if we talk about ancient Greece at a time when theater was very respectable, honorable, that changed. Um, and during the ninth through the 15th century, the practice of theater, as we said, was focused on Christianity. By the beginning of the Renaissance, the popularity of theater was strong, but theater artists were not celebrated in the way they were celebrated during the 5th century BC. Consider the terminology surrounding theater. Theater is pretend. We rely on our imaginations. People write plays that are to be performed. Performance, imagination, play, act. The terminology does not really lend itself to any understanding of a serious way of living. It was unstructured, it was random. Real, responsible individuals did not practice theater. However, that changes as we see society changing. The power of theater, the support of theater, the interest of theater changes from decade to decade, from century to century. There are three components of theater: the play, the performance, and the audience. These three basic elements of theater. The play, of course, is the starting point. The play is that written text upon which the play is translated, or from which the play is translated and turned into the performance. It's always important to remember that theater is storytelling. So when a playwright writes a play, it's important to know that their objective is to see that play translated from the written text into performance. That translation becomes the responsibility of a director. This is the individual who reads the play and decides how to tell the story. How do I want to take this written text and translate it into movement and speech? Finally, we have the audience. And this is the most important element of theater, in my opinion, because you cannot have theater without an audience. Um, and the appeal of theater depends on the audience. Um, some audiences are very receptive to theater, others not so much. And unfortunately, the success of theater depends on the reaction of the audience. So we have to ask, who is our audience? This is something we'll discuss more in chapter 2, but thinking about it, the theater going audience is one that we have to rely on. So making sure that we are able to present theater that will appeal to them is always a challenge. Audiences affect theater in many ways. The presence of the audience in the theater is something that performers uh, feel. We're aware of it. And the immediate response of the audience to the performance is extremely valuable. This is what we look for. If there is something funny that happens in a play, the audience is expected to respond to that humor with laughter. And audiences are very interesting. Sometimes people are gathered to watch a play that is funny, but until an audience hears laughter from another part of the room, they might not feel comfortable enough to respond in that way. Audiences are alive, obviously, but as a group, the energy is something that the entire group can feel. The play is good, the audience is behind you, they're with you. They want it to happen. They want to find out what happens next. And this is what ultimately we want. So, what does the audience come uh, to the theater? What are the expectations that audiences come to the theater with? First and foremost, audiences come to the theater to be entertained. Theater is entertainment. Um, and we're going to see as we look at theater throughout our exploration that what is thought to be entertainment differs from decade to decade, from group to group, from century to century. Audiences also come to the theater to be educated. It is a wonderful tool, educational tool. Even when people are unable to read, for example, which was the case during the Middle Ages, theater was a powerful educational tool because all an audience really had to do was stand there and watch and listen and pay attention. Now, the impact of the story, of course, had to be enhanced, uh, m- made clear, made powerful through the way the play was presented. Emphasis was placed on certain elements of the story. And in doing so, that was received by the audience. The message was received. Other times, people are very opinionated. They go to the theater with the knowledge of theater and literature, and their expectations are higher. Theater is an art form, and until the 18th century, it was thought that art meant the systematic application of known principles to achieve some predetermined result. After the 18th century, during the 19th century, art was divided into categories: useful and fine. And when we think of useful art, we are thinking of that which is created, for example, by a potter, someone who makes plates, dishes, bowls, things that we use to eat. Or we could think of the artistry of a metal worker, someone who is able to structure metal to become useful. Uh, Fine art, on the other hand, is art that has more of an aesthetic appeal. Visual art, paintings, sculptures, music, uh, dance, and theater. Theater is in the category of fine art. Some people get uncomfortable when we talk about art and exactly what art means. Um, in some cases, we have to become snobs, become critics, and say that one type of art is far superior to another. Or one type of artistic expression is not as powerful as another. Um, in our culture, we have um, our own set of preferences. And when we talk about our culture, that which defines us, our practices, what we do, what we eat, how we worship, politically, our culture is defined by all of these. If there is an element of our culture that appeals to the greatest number of us, it is considered popular culture. If this part of our culture appeals to a select few, it is elitist culture. Now, popular culture, of course, is popular music, movies, food, the internet, video games, all of that thing, all of those things that appeal to the greatest number of us. Theater, dance, classical music, art gallery exhibitions. Um, these are all examples of elitist culture. Elite because a select few support it. Um, and like I said, unfortunately, theater falls in the category of elitist um, because not a lot of us support theater. To appeal to audiences, theater has to grow, it has to change. Theater changes when society changes. We will see that theater reflects what's happening in society. War, financial struggles, um, disease, illness, these things are reflected in theater. It's very sensitive. If something is going on in society, theater will reflect that. In the same way, as society advances, technology, the way we think, what comes to mind, the way we live our lives has to be reflected in theater as well. Um, so keeping it current, making theater more than just storytelling. When we talk about the structure of a play, we're going to talk about something called spectacle. Those are the qualities of a performance that add all of the excitement, the color, the costumes, the lighting, stage movement, scenic design, all of that enhances the performance. And for that reason, um, theater becomes more appealing. So by following the growth and trends in society, theater takes on a very interesting shape, and it becomes more attractive to audiences. This, I think, is very well demonstrated very well when we look at a production of a play like Hamilton, for example. In addition to being an amazing story with a wonderful score and fantastic music, the stage becomes a part of that production. It moves. There are certain parts of the stage that rotate. The lighting on that in that production is fantastic. Costuming is very interesting, and that contributes to the overall appeal of that play, of that production. And we see it throughout popular theater, things that provide a great deal of visual interest in a performance, in a production. This keeps the audience coming back. There are certain special qualities of theater that set it apart from other art forms. The first is lifelikeness. Theater is lifelike. When we go to the theater, we see people, characters behaving in ways that we can relate to, we can identify with. We see characters going through situations and circumstances that we can certainly relate to and we understand. It is lifelike. The second quality of theater that sets it apart from other forms of art is ephemerality, meaning that what we see on stage, what happens, even the overall performance, is temporary. It only lasts for what, 2.5 hours, and then it's over. Theater is ephemeral because we will never see that performance again. We have people, live actors on stage performing, human beings creating this theater. Because we are human, things change, things happen, um, which makes that performance unique and it won't last. You cannot go back to the theater the next night and see the same performance that you saw the night before. Theater has objectivity. Within a story, you have to have characters who present different ways of uh, uh, relating to the subject of the play. Theater cannot exist as an expression of one character's voice. It relates, it is inclusive. Next, complexity of means. It takes more than one person to create theater. You have a playwright, a director, you have actors, you have designers, you have costumers, everyone working together, operating behind one vision, one idea to create a play. And finally, immediacy. Theater is happening right in front of us. When we go to the theater, we accept that what is happening right now. We are transported to that time of the play. One thing we have to remember when we are watching a play as audience is that um, we as audience members have to practice something. It is called a willing suspension of disbelief. And that means that for the time that we are in the theater, we will accept that everything that we see on stage is real. It's true. Uh, that's the work that the audience has to put into this effort of theater making, is that everything that happens on stage is real. We believe that the two characters who are engaged in a conversation are actually siblings or husband and wife. We will accept and believe that any sound that we hear happening off stage is real. A car backfiring, a gunshot, a dog barking, a baby crying. That's real. We will suspend our disbelief. It's extremely valuable when we think about the success of a play, the success of a production. I want to talk just briefly about art and value. It's important right now to trust your um, impressions, your judgment, your feelings. If something appeals to you and it is presented to you in the name of art and you like it, it's art. In my opinion, critics' opinions are just that, opinions. If you see something and you think, yes, this represents art to me, then it's art. Yes, there are certain qualities, certain aspects of art that we are expected to follow. But In many ways, what we are celebrating is the effort of creation. What are we making? And how it is received always depends on the audience, on the viewer. Suppose someone painted a picture for me and gave it to me, and it's a landscape. And the value of that painting lies in the fact that it was created by a friend for me. And there is an emotional connection for me. I love that. That is art. And I have it hanging in my room. And it happens to be beside the work of a well known artist, someone that everyone identifies as an artist, leader in the field. Is this art by this well known artist any more valuable than the art that was created by the friend? Uh, and the answer, of course, is no. In my home, it's art and it is equal. And art is in the eyes of the beholder. Now, throughout the course, we are going to become um, observers. I don't want to say we're going to become critics, but we will. We will develop a vocabulary. We will learn what to look for in theater and how that could make the quality of a performance better, our expectations. But art exists for us to appreciate, and theater is art.